You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 031, Transformation with Catlin Adams.
Writing is difficult, but it is worth the effort. Kevin Tomlinson can help you develop a daily writing habit that will let you write your book, improve your website, and build or grow your business. Visit kevintomlinson.com and start writing now.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. I'm happy to be back. Not that I was all that far away. I've been here, pretty much the whole time. There's this closet I hang out in, you see. I'm just here every day, just waiting for the opportunity to talk to you guys each week. How do you like them apples? Does that make you feel sad? That makes me feel a little sad. To think about somebody just kind of hanging out, waiting to talk to people. This week I'm talking to someone she's very interesting and she's very energetic. I was glad to meet her. I met her. I got an introduction to her through Francesca Hoagie, who you heard in an earlier episode. And if I were a good host, I would give you that episode, the episode number. But I don't remember it. I'll look that up while I'm chatting. But I'm going to be talking to Catlin Adams, who is. Well, she's an actress. You've probably seen her in something. I mean, she's all over the place. One of the things I've seen her in that I remember from is The Jerk, which was a Steve Martin movie from was that the 80s? I don't even remember. But she played a role in that, so pretty interesting role too. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. You can see her stuff on IMDb. She's really easy to track down. But what she's doing beyond acting these days is she is actually teaching acting. She's got a whole acting course that she does, and this is not for like the sort of run-of-the-mill actor, I guess. It is. I mean, it just depends, but. What she does, she works with a lot of really high-end actors who, just want to keep perfecting their craft. And that says a lot, by the way. It says that even at a high level, sometimes you just need help. You need like a mastermind group. I was listening recently, the latest episode, I believe, of Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. He does this, he plays back a mastermind session. And man, I was glad to hear that because I have kind of a couple little mastermind groups. I have some people I do things one-on-one with, some coaching and that sort of thing, to help me. That's my sharpening the saw. But, it's good to hear how other people do this. And it's good to hear their advice, even if it's not directly for you, because, a lot of times it's applicable. And, so it shows you that no matter what your performance level, Pat Flynn, that guy's making 6 figures a month doing the work that he does. And that's pretty amazing. But beyond the money, I mean, he's just overall successful at what he does. And it's because he adheres to this process of go out and learn as much as you can, and what you can't learn or what you don't have the bandwidth to learn, you sort of outsource that to your group. Sorry, I had to mute myself and clear my throat there for a second. So that was an important lesson for me, and to hear that Catlin has this setup where she's working with really well-known actors. I mean, we didn't get a chance to name drop, and she didn't want to do that. But I mean, I can tell you, I've heard some of the names, and these are people who are well known. You watch them in lots of things. You buy movie tickets just to see them. I'm just going to put it that way. She takes credit, by the way, for discovering Ben Affleck, probably long before Kevin Smith did, I guess. And I don't doubt her. I don't doubt her at all, actually. Okay, by the way, the episode with Francesca Hoagie, that was episode number 27, so you can go back to that. And if you are interested in what Francesca does, by the way, I have got an interview with Paul C. Brunson coming up soon. That she mentioned in the podcast, and she does some work with him still to this day. But he's kind of the love coach. He's kind of like Hitch in the real world, but he's not who we're talking to today. We're going to be talking to Catlin Adams. I apologize, Catlin. I knew I would say Caitlin at some point. I don't know why. It just slipped in there. But Catlin Adams. And I got a special treat for you today. I actually finally got someone to write in with a question. Now, they didn't call in, but you can. If you call 281-809-WORD, that's 281-809-9673, you can ask me a question, or you can ask a question for my guests. I'd be happy to play that on the air and answer it for you. And, really the topics here, I mean, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are, top of their field, or who are maybe even just getting into it, or have been into it for a short amount of time, but are doing very well, or they have some perspective to offer. That's the kind of people we talk to. And we talk to people about building their authority and building a business around their expertise. And that's the question I've got today. And I'll answer that after the show, because I don't want to take away from Catlin's interview. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and tune in to that interview. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And I'll see you after the show. Hey everybody, this week we're going to talk to somebody, you may have seen her around. Actually, if you've watched a few films you might have heard of. The Jerk, that was one that I've seen her in. One of my favorites. And but we're going to be talking to Catlin Adams, who is get ready for this list. She's an actress, she's an Emmy-winning director, she's a producer, and she's an acting teacher and acting coach. And you can find her online at actinglab.com, which I almost mispronounced. I'm sorry about that, Catlin.
Right.
But, she also discovered Ben Affleck. I just found that out today. That's pretty cool. When you said he was like 12 years old when you discovered him?
Yes, Wanted the Perfect Guy. Actually, when he won his DGA award and this film, they reprinted a picture of him in that Wanted the Perfect Guy, and it was so funny to see it on the back of a Variety. I don't know how many years later. I think that was 1987.
Yeah.
So everything it will come back to haunt you, like it or not.
Right. All that early work, all those early sins.
That's right.
So I am. Of course, we're all fascinated by your acting career, but the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, and I'm glad you came on for this, I help people kind of build and grow their authority business, and that's kind of something you're doing by teaching acting skills. So I'd really like to talk to you about that, but the first thing I wanted to say, though, by the way, is you and I are very close, as my birthday is like one day after yours. I just wanted to point that out.
Are you a Libra?
I am a Libra, yeah.
Well, all my friends are Libras. As a matter of fact, I live in a neighborhood where we have a party called Duza Was a Libra, Eleanor Duza. And there's so many of us that we actually celebrate it together in the neighborhood.
Wow, I don't have a group like that, but maybe I should. So, first, why don't let's talk a little bit about how you got into your career. Like, how'd you get into acting in the first place?
I knew I wanted to be an actress since I was 4 years old, and when I was 14 years old, I met a woman at my parents' house who helped me with a monologue from class in high school. Mm-hmm. And she turned out to be eventually the girlfriend later to marry Lee Strasberg.
Oh, okay.
And so she brought me at 14 into her acting class. And when I started to study, and her name is Anna Mizrahi, who became Anna Strasberg and married Lee Strasberg. So when I was 14 and a half years old, I auditioned for the Actors Studio. Okay. And I became the youngest observer ever. And eventually, when I was 18, became a member. So I was introduced to the Actors Studio from the day I was practically a teenager, and that's where I went. And I, became now it's 50 years later. It's still a place that I owe all my creativity to, and everything I've done acting and directing and producing, and everything I ever learned, I learned there.
Yeah.
So it changed my life, the Actors Studio.
I can imagine it.
Yeah.
That actor studio has changed the lives of a lot of actors over the years.
Yes, it has. But, the impression when you're 14 and the way you relate to a teacher at 14 when you think you know everything
Yeah.
is very different when then you're 30 and you don't know very much. And by the time you're 60, you know nothing. So it is a transformation it's a great transformation.
So what was one of your favorite roles in your career? Did I ask a hard one? I didn't mean to ask a hard one right off.
Well, the funny part about The Jerk wasn't the role, but was my audition. My audition was, to play this dominant woman. I had no clue. I didn't even know what to do with it. And at the time that Steve Martin became a very popular cultural figure in Saturday Night Live, I was in AFI in film school. So I didn't know who Steve Martin was because I didn't watch television. Mm-hmm. So when I was called in on a callback to read with him, the funny part is because I didn't know who he was and I didn't know even how to play a dominant, I basically threw him across, the wall. I ripped his shirt open and I bit his nipple during the audition. Then I threw him on a sofa and got on top of him. Now, the guy didn't even smile. He was so into it and he was like a lost puppy that he looked at me like I was crazy. But, and I didn't know who he was and he didn't know who I was. And so we had a good time. And, I think that getting the role was just more interesting than doing it.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to keep a tally here. So you've discovered Ben Affleck and you've bitten Steve Martin's nipple.
That's right.
So, now you went through. I've perused.
That'll go on record for a long time.
Yeah, I know. If you don't have that like on a business card or something, that's pretty sad. Now I've perused your IMDb, and you're in. I remember you from a lot of roles actually. And as I was going through, I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember that. And so you've got a pretty lengthy career in this. Now you've transitioned.
I want to tell you something. Actually, let me tell you. I think the proudest thing I've ever done was something called Panic in Echo Park. Mm-hmm. And it was the first interracial love story on television. And by the way, it never aired.
Oh, yeah.
I kissed an African-American man and it never aired. And it was a very big controversial moment in television history with Dorian Harewood.
Yeah.
So, and then I did the first pilot with two black fantastic actors. So I think the thing I'm most proud of is that in my career, that I crossed the color line every single time I could, and I would cross every line that I would as an actor today as well. And it was that it didn't air, that movie, and eventually they put it on at some ridiculous daytime hour. Yeah. It's one of the greatest shams in television. And so imagine how far we've come. And I think, that I've had I've been able to do something as an actor with that racism that we live in, that anger, that hatred that we have in this country that is mind-boggling. I think that's what I'm most proud of. Not the actual films, but just saying yes and doing them.
Right. So that you feel that informs a lot of your work, like even now the work that you're doing that's not strictly acting, and does that still inform a lot of that work?
Yes, because you have to take leaps of faith.
Right.
You have to be bold. You have to hold on. I'm just going to move my stuff out of this room because I have visitors and. No, but that's not okay. No, it's all right. I'm just going to go to my bedroom. It's fine. And so anyway, I'm just, there's nothing safe about the creative process.
Yeah.
Actually, the creative process is violent on some level, and I can remember every time I act, I worked in a play in New York recently. I would ask myself, why am I doing this again to myself? Excuse me, why am I putting myself through this? But there's something about putting yourself on the edge
Yeah.
that makes you feel alive,
Yeah.
and nothing else does.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting yourself out there, it makes you vulnerable, but it gives you a sort of strength, right?
Yes, it's that sense of being alive that Joseph Campbell talks about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It always comes back to Joseph Campbell somehow.
It does always come back to Joseph Campbell.
So you let's talk about. So tell me, you said you're an Emmy winning director. So what was that like? Well, I mean, I know
Well, I'm
tons of
going to
people
tell
who
you
would love to
another
claim
story. I
that.
don't want to make this as about the racism in America. I really don't. I can't believe I'm even having this conversation.
That
But you're
happens.
asking me, it's because of your questions. And this question, I was given a script, and it was two little white kids.
Uh-huh.
And it was a terrible script. And my writing partner and I, Melanie Mayron, I said, I was asked to direct it. And I said, of course, but can I rewrite it? So the producer said, yes, we threw out the script. And one of the first things I did was make the star of the film a little black girl.
Mm-hmm.
And the producer kind of he said that you can't do that. The network will never approve of, rechanging this part from two white kids to a friendship between an African American young girl and a young boy. Never. I said, well, I've never directed a television. I've never directed anything. I never directed television. I said, who can I talk to change that idea? Who do I see? He says, well, you have to see the head of the network and the head of the department of television movies for children. I said, okay, set up an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So he does, and I go see her, and I walk in, and I was told the day before that they had just changed the person at the head of the network, and that, I was going to meet someone new, and they didn't know who it was. And I go to this meeting, and they're sitting, and a beautiful African-American woman in front of me who's become the head of the department. Mm-hmm. And I walk into the room, and I start to laugh. And I said, oh, my God, this is my lucky day. And she said, why is that? And I said, because I've come in here to ask you if I could cast a 12-year-old little black girl instead of a white girl for the lead in this movie. And the producer said I couldn't. And the network said I couldn't. And if you say I can, then I will. And she said, be my guest. It would be my honor. And that was the end of that story.
Wow.
So, and when I made my film, I did the exact same thing. I'm just one of those people I'm an immigrant to America. Mm-hmm. I was born in Israel. And I come from an immigrant's mentality. My friends were all colors when I was a little girl, and all shades. And that's what I got to have in America.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see that reflected in the movies and the stories that I saw. My first friend was, it's like my whole life has been changed and enhanced by my friendships. And yet I don't see that reflected in the cinema or the movies or television at the time that I was younger. And I was determined to not do the same thing. And, I think that's just informed me as an individual. And that individual need to see what I know reflected in the universe is what basically I'm manifesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I find it interesting that so much of your early career kind of made strides against racism, or not really against racism, because I don't think that's the way that frames out.
It was for love, for peace, for the commonality that we're all one.
Yeah.
And that every time you try to separate you from me, you are not doing what we're here to do, mm-hmm. which is to connect, because we need each other. We need we need our aloneness, but we can't survive without each other.
Right.
So that's the ultimate connection. And we need, of course, our personalities. But in order to survive as a nation, as a world, we have to create that universal, the ultimate truth, and not this religious, I'm different than you. I don't think so. We're only what, 0.0001% different? I mean,
Yeah.
that's really it.
Yeah. I think that even narrows with every passing year. I think that the more people who are born in this world, the narrower that difference becomes.
Yeah, and I see that what we do, no matter what we're doing, writing, being the head of a corporation and taking authority and leading a corporation,
Hmm.
speaking in public, making a film, having teaching your children, it's the same voice.
Yeah. So you're okay. Now you actually teach other people how to do this. You're an acting teacher and acting coach. Tell me a little about how that transition happened and how you got into that work.
Well, the real story of that is I was pregnant
Okay.
and I was put on bed rest because I was in my 40s
Hmm.
and I was carrying my child very low, and they didn't want anything to happen, so they made me stay in on a bed for 6 months.
All right.
Now, I am not the kind of woman that lies down or
Yeah,
sits
I don't
still.
get that impression from you at all. No.
It is not my nature. So I couldn't even believe it. But everyone that I'd ever directed heard that I couldn't move.
Yeah.
So they called me for coaching.
Oh.
And then they said, well, since you can't move, one of my girlfriends, her husband is an actress, and her husband was the head of Paramount at the time, the president. So she got me a sound stage, and she said, what if we carried you in a chair to your car and then carried you in a chair from your car to the sound stage? Would you teach a class? So the doctor said I couldn't do it, but I said I can't not do it. And so
Right.
basically, all my friends who are extraordinary actors created the best acting class at Paramount that I have ever experienced with the most talented actors, which I will not name.
Okay.
I became an acting teacher overnight and an acting coach overnight because I couldn't move.
You're probably the first person in history to start a new career by doing nothing.
I did nothing. That is absolutely correct, Kevin. Nothing.
So, what is that like? How's that business structured? Like, what do you do in a typical acting class? You don't have to walk me through the whole class. I mean, just give me,
Well,
what's
I
it?
do everything because also one of the things I wouldn't honor is the different schools of acting. You know, there's the Strasberg Method School,
Uh,
and then there's the Stella Adler School, and then there's Sandy Meisner School. But I was so young, I studied with all of them because I think you need them all. And
yeah.
I'm one of the founding members of the Groundlings. I think you need improv.
Oh, yeah.
I think you need all the teachers, that each one of them were brilliant, and you need everything that each one of them had to bring. And because I didn't sleep with them and didn't have that kind of issue with so and so slept with so and so now we're not going to be, I'm going to separate from you, because
Yeah.
basically the group theater had all of that drama,
Imagine
right?
that.
I didn't have any of that drama. Stella Adler is a brilliant teacher. She didn't like women that much, but boy, could she analyze a script. And I took all of that from her. And then everything to do with Meisner's partnering and repetition and moment to moment work, I learned from him. And everything to do with sensory and preparation, I learned from Strasberg. And everything from improv that I learned from the Groundlings has gone into what I do. So I also, because I worked on Avatar, also do fourth wall, the new age, special effects world where you
Yeah.
look at nothing and you talk to nothing, and it has to be a monster or a spaceship, and it's nothing. So because I've worked on lots of different films, I integrate everything I've ever learned in one room. And so of course my classes are endlessly long. I went from 6:30 to 1:30 in the morning, and they get a break if they need to go to the bathroom. So that's like, I'm crazy.
Wow. I don't know if I could survive a class with you.
Yeah, probably not. That's why my number is very hard to get. I'm referral only. I don't advertise,
Yeah.
because I don't want people that come to Hollywood to be stars. That's not going to work for me.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to come and be an actor and learn the craft of acting, and because your good looks are going to last 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
and with plastic surgery 10,
Yeah. If you're lucky.
if you're
Yeah.
lucky and it's good work. But
Yeah.
that's it. You better have, after all those being pretty, you better have a craft.
So I love that idea, by the way, because that's kind of when I do any kind of author coaching, it's all about craft. It's about the business too. I focus a lot on the business aspects, but
So do I. I focus a lot in my talk a lot about auditions,
mhm.
and that's how it's a different animal
Yeah,
and requires different muscles.
yeah,
So my private coaching is when I'm coaching people for auditions or working with an actor, a very, very big actor that
mhm.
everyone is afraid to talk to and doesn't direct and says nothing to. They need conversation
Yeah,
because they're actors and you cannot work in a void. You grow from conversation just like we're having one. And
right.
someone's going to listen to this conversation and they're going to hear something that they needed to hear
Yeah,
because you and I are having a conversation.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like you asked me a question and I never answered. I never saw my life in relationship to this issue of black and white before until I just started to talk to you. I never saw it until I answered these questions. I
hey,
never had this perspective before.
yeah, and yet it seems you made a huge stride in that actually. So that's ironic that you would only think of it
And
now.
in my film that I directed, Sticky Fingers, I also had a part that was written for a white male, and I
Hmm.
cast Denitra Vance, a genius comic, brilliant actress who died way, way too young.
Hmm.
And I discovered Loretta Devine, who was one of the great African American actresses in my film. I've made everything like an American mutt, like we all are.
Right. Yeah. That's profound actually. So it's sort of like a microcosm of America in general. Then the work that you're doing.
I hope so.
I think
I
so.
hope
I
that's
think
what it
so.
is because that's what I'd like it to be, and that's why I'm going to start teaching,
Yeah.
and internationally. I started in Paris last year, and I'm going to Turkey this year,
Hmm.
and hopefully Israel next year, and I'm going to start teaching internationally because when people can't come here, at least I can go there because you know as an Israeli and an American, how do I bring peace to the world? Really, peace is what I'm looking at in my own country, and everywhere else. And what does that mean? And how do we do it? And how are we ambassadors for something bigger than ourselves?
Yeah. That's a pretty big statement, though. I mean, that's a big mission. How you plan to go about that?
One conversation at a time.
I love that. That's exactly the way I operate. So I'm happy to hear that. So okay, it sounds like your business. I like to ask people how they market themselves, but it sounds like you are
Well,
primarily. What's that?
I haven't done any marketing.
Yeah, it sounds like your word of mouth, basically, right?
I'm word of mouth. I've done nothing. As a matter of fact, someone in Turkey just offered to do a my webpage actinglab.com was made by me with two fingers. I have 17 different fonts. Do you know how bad that is for
That's
marketing?
bad. Yeah.
Okay. I have so many fonts you can't even know what to look at or where to read.
Yeah.
I have the worst web page ever made on the internet. Um, so I can, and not only that, I don't market the people I work with, so I don't even name them unless they've offered that to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and I've been too afraid to ask them.
You don't want to take advantage of their name or their fame.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
I
feel like it's a secret. What acting coaches do, we're a secret weapon, and
yeah.
nobody likes to tell people that they work with an acting coach. Of course, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm teaching how to act. Here's what I do with great actors. When you watch the U.S. Open,
Hmm.
they're the best players in the world. They have worked their whole life to get to that championship, and who's watching them? A coach.
Right.
Is that coach teaching them how to act or how to play tennis? Never. That coach is looking and saying, how do you make the best game? Now, also, the actors I work for, they call me.
Yeah.
They want to be brilliant. They want to be the best they can be. That's who they are.
Yeah.
The studios don't pay me. They pay me. They pay me out of their pocket.
Do the studios refer people to you, or?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
but rarely. Mostly it's managers and agents. Rarely is it a studio head, but if it is, then I'm just one of those. I'm one of the handful. There are very, very astonishing acting coaches.
Yeah.
A handful of them. They're brilliant, and they really help actors. And we are a secret organization.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like the acting Illuminati, I guess, right?
I don't know, but I've kept it very secretive, very underground, very private. You only hear who I work with because someone else tells you, not because I'll tell you.
Well, and that could be a strength, and I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs need to keep in mind too, is that there is power in exclusivity. You are pretty exclusive. I mean, you get your business via word of mouth, right? Mostly.
Yes, only.
Only. So there's an aspect of this that's kind of like from the Seven Habits, the idea of sharpening the saw, right? I mean, you're helping actors improve their craft, even if they're already known for what they do.
Yes, especially if they're known for what they do, because every part is different and requires different muscles.
Yeah.
So that you can fulfill the text, the character, the idea of the director, and marry yourself with it on a personal level and on a mythic level, on a dream level and on a realistic level. And it requires all the different parts of psyches. And you have to know how to move around and what questions to ask so that you can connect in whatever level you're connecting, both conscious and unconscious.
So my career has been spent writing, and I write fiction and nonfiction alike, and so I craft a story. Now, the people who are writing these screenplays have an idea of the story as it goes in. The director has an idea, and the producer has an idea. How much influence does the actor have on the story and the outcome of the story? Not the outcome, I guess, but the shape of it in the way it's told.
A star has a lot of input on their character and the way the character impacts other characters. But the director of a film structures the story. The writer writes the text. It's a collaborative medium with a vision of a director, but without that text, and it's text. It is a text. It is the written word. And heck, man, the written word from all the different religions and all the different written words, except Hindu started as a verbal oral culture and then went into the Upanishads. But that was written. But Hindi, the oldest sacred text, but it started always as text. So the text is sacred, period. But without the director and the producer who manifest that, then the actors bring the soul. You cannot do it with one thing in films. You need everybody. And the actor does, if they know how to give text notes, character notes, arc notes, notes on how to make a script better. If they know how to do that, that helps with the ability to vocalize what's working and what's not working to the director. If those changes get made, the script does get better.
Yeah.
When actors come on the set and improvise, a film cannot always work, and they can get to be difficult to work with. But if you can do that kind of work with the director before the film starts, that's the best. But, look at all comedies. The comedies are dependent on when a scene's not working, when they're doing it, on improvising and coming up with stuff in the moment. Mm-hmm. And that's why you need the comic geniuses to be able to improvise like that. So comedy works on improvisation as well as text and chemistry. It's kind of even different, and it's more difficult.
Now, is that teachable?
Timing is not teachable.
Yeah.
But how to deliver a joke, and you can deliver stuff you can learn things about sitcom.
Yeah.
But to be a great comedian or to be a great comic, no, that's born.
That's interesting. because I have this sort of underlying philosophy that you can learn just about anything, but I think I agree on timing, though. It's difficult for somebody to pick up,
You
rhythm
can't.
like that.
You can't. I can tell you, you got to deliver. This is the joke because you don't know where the joke is,
Yeah.
which is that makes me nervous. If you don't know where the joke is, you have to set up the joke and then you have to deliver the joke. When you deliver a joke, you just say the lines. You don't hit it. You don't do anything. You have to trust that the text is going to be funny.
Yeah.
But if it's not, you have to do something afterwards that can make it funny. So the actor is required to know where the joke is
Right.
and how to take their time. Acting again is about bringing your soul. Acting is about transformation. If the actor isn't in fact having some sort of transformation while you're seeing it, you're not going to have a transformation watching it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you're becoming part of the story, and if the story's going to influence the viewer, you have to make that change. That's what the story is change, right?
Yeah, what narrative is life with all the boring parts taken out.
I like that.
So it's just about life and death.
Yeah.
Because every scene has to then go into the next scene that goes into the thriller, that goes into the horror, that goes into the drama, no matter what genre you're in.
Yeah.
And, in life, we have a lot of maintenance and boring things. Getting your hair cut, fixing the car. I mean, there's so much boring, doing taxes, which I have to do at the end of this conversation.
Oh, no, I'm sorry
I
to hear
don't
that.
like the grown up. I prefer the other parts of my life.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I ignore all those other parts.
Yeah, right. I go until tomorrow I have to see the accountant. I wait until the last second.
Yeah, me too. So do you teach directing as well as acting?
I have worked with directors and I have helped them break down scripts. I've gotten the privilege to work with Darren Aronofsky, who is probably my favorite director right now. He's daring and bold and loving and goes into the shadow, and I just think he's the most brilliant man. I'm just in awe of Darren Aronofsky, I think. So I've gotten to work with him and talk to him about his scripts, or talk when that I had that privilege. I've worked with directors who've never worked with actors. I have directors come into my class because my very close friend and the head of the Actors Studio, one of the heads of the Actors Studio, Ellen Burstyn, she says that if you want to learn how to direct, then go to an acting class.
Yeah.
And she's right about that, because you learn how difficult acting is by doing it, and then you'll understand how kind and generous and loving you have to be to actors.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking that they're children, what they are is, in order to be an actor, you have to stay open. And you know what? It takes Herculean effort to be vulnerable and to stay open.
Yeah. But that's where the magic happens, right?
If you're not open, nothing can come in.
Yeah. So on that note, I mean, do you think that there is value in someone taking an acting class, even if their ambition is not to act?
If they can find a teacher, I don't want to teach them.
Yeah.
Because that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because they're like throwing a tennis ball to a pillow.
Yeah.
You get nothing back because they're just not that interested in the acting part. What I tell you, if you're a screenwriter, to read plays, because to actually write three-dimensional, and I've written 30 screenplays, and I'm not a very good screenwriter. I write, if I'm lucky, two-dimensional characters, but three-dimensional characters is beyond my ability.
Yeah.
And but to write dialogue and to really write it well, you need to read plays. You need to read. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a generation that doesn't read.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, they don't read.
I feel that.
They do not know, who Oscar Wilde is. They do not know who Tennessee Williams is.
Yeah.
They don't even know, actors of this generation don't even know who Marlon Brando is.
Yeah.
That's the world I'm looking at.
Yeah. What do you see happening from there? I mean, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Because everything is instant, and the TV look is the renaissance of television. The TV is really. I mean, I didn't watch television while my kids were growing up because I didn't want them to see their mother watching TV. I just didn't want that. So when I'm watching television, they ask me what I'm working on. Now that's funny.
That is pretty funny. Yeah.
But I started to travel, and in my travels, I watched American television because I was lonely for America.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to watch such great television, from Homeland to House of Cards to a season of Breaking Bad to, I mean, really astonishing shows and writing. So I just think that there's so much good television and there's so much movies and there's so much great music that the written word has lost its meaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have one son that's a reader, and his room is full of books, and the other one is full of basketball trophies and running trophies and movies and Michael Jordan posters, and the two boys are so completely different. And so, yes, I have a son who's a reader, who's a writer, and then I have a son who's a runner and a musician, and God forbid he might be an actor someday. He's still in college. I don't quite know where he's going, but it's just the generations have changed. And the thing is, the sad part is, and this is sad, Kevin, is young kids, 20-year-olds, are more lonely, are more suicidal, take more drugs, are on more medication than ever.
Yeah.
Something has been disconnected, not connected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ironic considering how connected the world is now.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the connection to the self, the connection to understanding how difficult and how full of suffering life is, and that they have to tolerate the suffering to have happiness. But it seems we live in a culture that can no longer tolerate suffering, and life is full of it.
Yeah.
It's lonely and it's extraordinary and it's full of awe and full of pain and full of tragedy and randomness.
Yeah.
But there's too many pills and too much ADD, and they get, there's just no more process.
Well, and how do you understand the good parts if you have nothing to contrast them against, right?
Right, and even I am guilty of this as a mother, not to let my children be bored.
Yeah.
But took them, they went to here and they went to there and they went to this, and I'm part of the mistake too.
Yeah.
I didn't have all of that.
Yeah.
I just didn't. And I'm not sure if all this distraction isn't taken over the psyche, and the self has been forgotten. And not only that, the contemplation with the self is lost.
So, if someone were learning to act from one of your courses, I mean, is what they learn, do you feel that's transferable to other areas of their life, like other industries?
Well, I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do. In my world, in Catlin's world, not in the world I came from.
Yeah.
In the world I came from, I got the history of acting, the history of all the great actors. I got the history of my profession.
Yeah.
But my teaching is about transformation, and that's the transformation of self. And ultimately, it is a spiritual transformation. And I think for me, acting is a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And so therefore, in my classes, it requires you to look at yourself and others in a deeper way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I could see that, and especially getting yourself into any sort of role would require you to be able to look into yourself and find the pieces that fit, right? Or find the things that would give you some connection to that role.
Here's the deal. In life, when you're uncomfortable, you smoke a cigarette, you eat a piece of cake, you take a hit of pot, or what do they call it? Just a minute. They call it, I don't know what they call it. I'm trying to remember what they said with the pipe, and I know. But you take you take a drink or two.
Yeah.
You get out of the discomfort, you get out of the edge.
Mm-hmm.
You take the edge away. In any art form, you have to stay in it. You have to stay in it no matter what. And not only do you have to stay in it, you have to ask what's going on.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to look at it and not move away from it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't know is not a good enough answer in the art form.
Hmm.
Where in life we go, I don't know. How do you feel? I don't know. What's going on with you? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you want to do about that? Whatever.
That feels sad.
Those answers don't work.
Yeah. How do you get past that if that's you know, sometimes it's difficult to put into words or to express in any way what's inside of you. So how do you get past that as an actor?
Well, you work with it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that you get past it. You work with it.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize it and work with it. And it becomes the fodder, the food. Instead of dismissing it, you own it.
Yeah.
And you own all the different parts of yourself, which in life we dismiss.
Yeah.
We fragment or we dissociate, or we carry the shadow of it. And you know what parts those are because you can project it onto anyone else. Like that, I hate this person because they're so and so and so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the part of yourself you hate. So in acting, we have to recognize all the different parts of ourselves, and there are a multiplicity parts of selves. There is no one you. And in acting, you have to kind of not only recognize different parts, but own them so that you can portray them and portray them with compassion and kindness. So when you're playing a person that's a killer, before you were a killer, you were just a little baby, mm-hmm. and you had a mother, and that mother beat you up, didn't she? And that mother or that father did something, didn't they? So you got to know the story,
yeah.
So that you bring compassion to a character that can be as evil as can be. So that's what I mean. You, as an actor, you have to recognize parts of selves that you would rather not know.
Yeah. So who are some people who are just masters at doing that you know?
Well, Ellen Burstyn is one of my teachers and one of my great masters, mm-hmm. in this world. She is my friend, my teacher, my sister, my mother, my mentor, my child.
Yeah.
So she would be on the top for me, right there. And then underneath her are, Daniel Day-Lewis and Meryl Streep and masters of the profession, Gary Oldman. Mm-hmm. So they're an extraordinary group of actors. All actors for me, actually. I love all actors. I do. I hardly have met an actor I don't love. I don't love rap singers who become actors. Those are my hard ones.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Those are hard for me. So I charge them a fortune.
There you go.
That's the only thing I can do.
Vengeance through economy. I like it.
Yeah. At the Actors Studio, I had many, many teachers, from Lee Strasberg. I have to look at my teachers rather than actors, mm-hmm. who have taught me. Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, Meisner, and Kazan, Elia Kazan.
Yeah.
These are teachers. Shelley Winters, Marty Landau, Mark Rydell. These have been my teachers. Lee Grant. They're my personal teachers.
Yeah. And
then there's the spiritual teachers. So Gary Austin has been a teacher for me in improv. So I look at my teachers not as more than I do great actors. As I look at artists, I look at painters, I look at writers.
Yeah.
You see, other artists become my teachers, and more than actors. They're the other great luminaries in other fields are my teachers now.
I can see that.
But my greatest teachers now have become my children.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from people, that the people didn't really know how much there was to learn until they had someone they had to take care of and teach how to be human.
Well, and also you have to be a grown up because
Yeah,
sometimes I want to cry more than my kid does and I don't, or and I want to be angrier than my kid does and I can't,
yeah,
and I don't want to do that and I have to. So it made me grow up in a way I wouldn't have grown up.
yeah. So, what have you got coming up? I mean, we're getting close to rounding off. So, what
Well, I
projects do you have?
the movie, the Nina Simone movie, which I don't know what they'll name, is eventually going to be released. I don't know when, but I will. I'm a co-executive producer of that, and Zoe Zaldana and David Aiello are extraordinary actors. And then I'm going to be going to Turkey to do a workshop,
Hmm.
and I have a movie that I've done, No Pay Nudity, which will eventually come out, that I
Okay.
get to act in. I just have one scene, but I'm thrilled to be doing. And I just returned from teaching in New York, where I've been for a year and a half, and Paris, where I've been teaching. So I'm in Los Angeles. I am so happy to be home and to be warm and to have my students again. And I'm so happy to be here. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm hopefully going to create a web page and become part of the new age. That is my job for this year.
Well, if you need a hand with that at all, you let me know. I've got plenty of resources to help you get that done. So you
I will
just
get in touch with you, Kevin.
you do it. You do it. And anything else you need. So, all right. Well, hey, it has been. I have really enjoyed this because, acting is something that I have a lot of actor friends. A lot of good friends of mine are in that industry. Some of them actually teach acting locally, anyway. And it's a fascinating field to me. So it's been interesting to talk to you. I've dipped my toes into that world a few times. I think I have a moderate interest in it, but probably not passionate enough to be on one of your rosters. But but thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really
Oh, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
asking me such great questions that gave me a whole perspective of my own journey that I didn't even know.
Well, that's what this is all about. We're talking to each other so that we learn as much as we teach. So
Well,
I'm
thank you for that. And I'm so glad to have had a perspective about my own career that I never even realized.
well. There you go. Go forth and use that.
Thank you. Go forth and prosper yourself.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and I'm gonna round it off now. But and if anybody has like questions they wanted to fling your way, because sometimes people ask, you have any objection to people? I can send it.
No,
I can send it
no,
on
but I
behalf.
just please tell them I might not have an answer.
That's fine. No answers aren't required. Just
Okay.
being willing to listen. All right.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been a great interview with Catlin Adams, and you can check out her website at actinglab.com, which we apparently is going to get a lot better in the near future. So
I
tune in.
promise.
All right. Thanks a
No more
lot, Catlin.
17 fonts.
All
Okay.
right. Get it down to at least two. All
True.
right. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, that was my interview with Catlin Adams. I hope you enjoyed that. She's fascinating, actually. And when we were doing the interview, and you probably heard some noise and some conversation and that sort of thing. You did hear that. And I love keeping things authentic. I don't do a lot of editing for this show, to be honest with you, and some of that is laziness, I won't lie, but some of it is just I love the authenticity of the whole thing, so I don't really mess with it much. I like kind of exploring people in their habitats. So that's what that was, and while we were doing this conversation, she was doing video Skype, and I was just I turned my video off to save bandwidth, and it was funny because she was moving around in her apartment or her home, or I think it's a house actually, and she's carrying the computer with her, and she she was doing her hair, and she was talking to her house guests and that sort of thing. So it was a real it was a very personal feeling interview. Like, I just felt like I knew her forever, and I really loved her. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk. And I hope you got a lot out of that interview. There was some really profound advice in there, and some profound perspective on how we can live our lives. So I enjoyed that. I think you will too. I think you did too. So Now that we've finished talking to Catlin, I want to jump in and answer a question from a listener. And this is coming from Ariana Ellis in Boulder, Colorado. And she says, I want to start a business teaching people how to use Airbnb to make money on rental properties. What are some ways I can establish myself as an authority on something like that? And that's an awesome question. And it's kind of coincidental because I actually just listened to an interview on the Suitcase Entrepreneur podcast. And she was interviewing, and I can't remember the guy's name right now, and I'm really sorry about that, but she was interviewing a guy who's doing exactly this. He's teaching people how to use Airbnb to start businesses. So I would start by looking him up, and I wish I had the name for you. I will find that. Again, I'm going to search while while talking. But what I'll say about I'm typing. See, you can't you can't multitask. That's just the truth. So what I will say about just establishing authority for something like that is, first of all, my go-to establishing authority trick is books. I always recommend people write books. I think you should. I think everyone who wants to be an authority on a subject should write a book, because frankly, what it does is allow you to it's an instant authority. It's like the ultimate business card. It allows you to hand someone a book rather than a business card, for example. They tend to hold on to it. People, will eventually toss a business card, but they're going to hold on to that book. It's just the way it works. And, because we're as a culture, we are, we've sort of had it ingrained in us that you treat a book with respect. You don't let it go. And a book has a psychological impact on people. It immediately tells them that you are an authority on a subject. I mean, writing a book is hard, just like the intro says, the ad at the beginning of the show. Writing can be difficult, but it's worth it, because what it does is it puts your brain basically in a nice compact format that you can send around. You can have your ebook, and that gives you a chance to get it out there far and wide. You can give that away for free as a sign-up bonus on your site, or you can sell it. And there's all kinds. It becomes an additional stream of revenue. It's fantastic for building instant credibility. Now, I don't want to just say write a book and that's the end of the story. Establishing yourself as an authority, I think one of the best step you can take is start getting more heavily involved in creating content that has your name associated with it. And one way you can do that is, if you have a blog, get on a regular cadence with that blog. Make sure that you're being consistent about updating that. I recommend writing every day, or maybe not writing every day, but at least producing something for the blog every day. I've been doing that for a while now, and it's really paying off. I'm starting to kind of actually curve myself away from writing specifically for my blog every day, because the other thing I recommend is guest posting. Now, I am bad about this. I have been traditionally bad about this. I'm getting a lot better about it, especially thanks to one of my coaches, my good friend Nick Thacker, who is part of my mastermind group. And he saw a great deal of success with this. When he first started his business, he saw tremendous growth based just on guest posting. So get out there and find other blogs that have topics that interest you, and that are in your field. And even if it's not in your field, find a way to connect that idea. So you want to talk about Airbnb, go and find like photography websites, and go try to get a blog post in there that talks about, if you're a photographer and you want to travel the world, you can use Airbnb to book a place to stay for a month or something, and talk about some of the best destinations that you can get to and stay in because of Airbnb. And if your topic is that you want to teach people how to make money with that, you can work that in. You can write for photographers, for example. I'm just picking on photographers. I'm not really. It's not specifically about this. It could be anything. Photography, or maybe let's say crafts or something. I mean, what you do is you want to establish yourself as an authority on how to make money with that business or with using that service, then you go to these various places and you start doing a little creative thinking about how can I talk to them about making money with Airbnb, but frame it in the context of what they're doing. So if they are photographers or they are crafters or whatever, you want to frame it that way. So for photography, for example, I would say, you can support your photography lifestyle, travel and shoot more photographs if you're able to rent out your property while you're away. So rent out your apartment or rent out your home, and Airbnb gives you an opportunity to do that. And, here are some best practices for doing that. If you like crafts, you can use your home as a showcase or whatever. Get creative. Think of ways to tie all these different things in with your work. And here's the advantage there. If you were just targeting, say, travel websites, you're one of thousands of bloggers trying to post about that topic on that site. But if you start looking outside of that circle and trying to find ways to tie your topic to something that's not directly related, a similar audience or an audience that would have enough crossover that they might come and check you out and maybe buy in on your course or whatever, your book or whatever it is you're developing, then you're going to see a greater return because now you've got an audience no one's tapping into. So that's some of my advice. If you want more advice like that, I'm happy to give it to you. Why don't you check me out? I am, if you come to kevintumlinson.com, you'll see, actually, kevintumlinson.com or wordslingerpodcast.com, either one will lead you to the essentially the same place. You can see my coaching and consulting service right there in the top menu, and click on that. I've got rates there, and I'm happy to work with you. I do a free 15-minute session right now to anyone who comes by, so that we can figure out first what you need, what you really do need, instead of just me trying to imprint on you what I think you need. We want to have a conversation so we can find that out. And then second, determine whether or not I can actually help you, because let's be honest, not everything I have to give is going to be a good fit for what you need, and I'm cool with that. But we can at least establish a nice relationship. I can give you advice when you need it. If we don't get to work together, then that's the way it is. So we can still be friends. So anyway, check that out. And if you have questions like this one, you can email me. I appreciate the emails. You can do that at wordslingerpodcast.com. Use the contact button there. But I would love to get some voicemails on this show. So if you would, call 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. Where you can leave me a voicemail, and I'll play that on the air and answer a question, just like I did today. So thanks a lot for that. Now, I would love if you would become a slinger, that's the cute pet name I have for people who come by and join my mailing list. If you come by wordslingerpodcast.com and you sign up for my mailing list, you're going to get all kinds of cool stuff. I promise you. I produce a lot of content myself. My partner Nick and I are developing some new stuff that is going to be pretty cool and right up your alley. It's all pretty much writing related, which is my go-to. But it's all about content, any kind of content. And if you come by and sign up on the list, you'll find out about new releases, new episode releases for the Wordslinger podcast. You'll know when something comes up on the blog. If I do a giveaway, which I do, I've been known to do that. You'll be among the first to hear about it and find out how to get into it. Any kind of special announcements, basically just anything Kevin and Wordslinger related. You're gonna be in on the inside scoop, and I'm building a little community around all this. And I think you'd be a great part of it. So come check that out. Do you hear that noise? I don't know what that noise is. There's a sound. It sounds like water running through a pipe, and I don't know what that would be. Sorry about that. So, and if you're enjoying the show, there's a couple of things you can do that would really help me out. The first is I have a Patreon campaign, and if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, there's a Fund Me button up there that will take you to the campaign, and you can basically, you can pledge as little as $1, and that's really helpful to me. as much money as you want, really, but $1 would be really helpful. And that's $1 a month, so it's not a ton of money out of your wallet. But you get, every episode of the Wordslinger podcast for free, no matter what. But a pledge of a few bucks a month would help me kind of reduce overhead and make it easier for me to produce these each week. So I appreciate that. It helps a lot. For those of you who have already done that, you are heroes of mine. I have emblazoned. I'm going to get a tattoo or something with your names on it. Probably not. I don't really do tattoos. So, and then another thing that I would ask, if you don't mind, would you please go to the iTunes Store and to Stitcher? And on the iTunes Store, and I've discovered this is a lot more difficult than I would like it to be, but if you go to the actual iTunes app on your phone or on your computer, go into the iTunes Store. If you search for Wordslinger Podcast, there's a tab on there that lets you click and do a review. So will you please write a review about the show and rate it? And I'd love to get 5 stars if you're feeling generous about that. But that sort of thing helps me become more discoverable. The show gets found a lot easier when there are people actually paying attention to it or actually showing that they pay attention to it. So go subscribe to the show, write a review about it, give it some stars, and that will help me a lot. So will you do that for me? I appreciate it. So thank you so much. And I know how difficult that is. It really is difficult. I'm not going to kid you. I mean, they do not make it easy to do this, which I think is bizarre considering how important it is to Apple, for example. Like that's where they pick a lot of their shows to feature, and that's how things work. So if people aren't reviewing it, that stuff's not there, and it's difficult for people to review it because it's just not. it's just not easy. I mean, they don't make it easy. So go check that out. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you got something out of the show. Got a little more out of this episode than normal, right? So I'm hoping to get a lot more of these questions. I really appreciate you, Ariana Ellis from Boulder, Colorado, for sending that my way. And if you have a question, feel free to email that if you want. And even better, call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And I'll read or play and answer your question on air. Thanks, everybody. Tune in next week. We're going to have a little more fun. I'll see you then.
Wordslinger.